Hello, Internet! Welcome to episode 237 of the Assorted podcast, the Second Amendment podcast that is a little bit for everyone. I'm Weer'd, and with me tonight is one of the most important voices of the Second Amendment, Erin Paulette. How are you doing, Erin?
I feel like I may have made a severe error in judgment, and I'm going to be apologizing to people for a while to come now.
What on earth could you be talking about, my dearest Erin Paulette?
So, dear readers, I'm still thinking in blog terms, listeners, I have decided to attend the Gundies because I don't know if I'm going to win. They wouldn't tell me. I guess that they want to make it all dramatic and whatever. But I got an invitation, which at least indicates I got a chance. I don't know. And I was on the fence about it because on the one hand, go and shoot guns and that'd be cool, but I'm an introvert. I don't know if I want to meet all these people. But Weer'd wants me to meet them and I might win, but if I go there and I don't win, I'll be disappointed. But if I don't go and I win, I'll be upset. And it's like, I don't know. And so everyone in the ACP Discord was telling me, no, you should go. You should go. You'll have a great time. And it's like, well, okay, fine. And so I RSVP. And it's only upon RSVPing that I find out that I can bring someone with me. And I'm going, who would want to come with me? Well, okay, a lot of people would want to come with me, but who would I be comfortable with taking along as my plus one and who would enjoy coming along? And there was only one person that I could think of, and that person's name is Weirdington Elizabeth Beard. And so I asked Weer'd Beard if he wanted to be my plus one at the Gundies, and his reaction was along the lines of, oh my God! And he's just been so stoked about it. And I mean, it's good that he's looking forward to it. I'm worried that when we get there, he is going to be like a kid at Disneyland. And I wonder if I'm going to need one of those toddler straps, that wraps around his chest and leads back to a lead that I've got tighter on my belt, or else he's just going to be, oh my God, there's Matt character! Ah! So if you're listening to this in the future and you were there and he made a spectacle of himself, I'm so sorry. But I'm an introvert, and I need someone to people for me, and he's really good at peopling, and he can introduce the introvert to the other people, and if he comes along, then I don't have to go. It's like, hi, I have a podcast, and my co-host is a really big fan of yours. Can you, be on this show? No? Okay. That way he can actually pimp himself. It will probably be fine, but I've just got this feeling of dread.
Well, even worse is that I am a man of many important ladies, and one of the other important ladies in my life is my daughter, and I frequently watch YouTube videos while I'm cooking and cleaning in the kitchen, and my daughter will be wandering through, and she'll occasionally join me in watching a video, and she is a huge fan of Demolition Ranch and Off the Ranch, all the ranch channels, and she's also a huge fan of Donut Operator. And she has informed me that I need to have a picture taken with Donut Operator and Dr. Matt Carricker. And she also said, and I'm going to need you to get Dr. Matt's cell phone number for me. So she wants she wants digits.
Does she have a little crush?
I don't know. I don't know what her plans are. I just know that they're probably sinister.
Well, she's your daughter, so. God!
I think she thinks that once she gets a cell phone, she can just call and just be like, "All right, let's talk about flying down to Texas and me hanging out with your daughters, and then we can go shoot some guns, and then we can go do some crazy stuff, and then we'll just go home." There'll probably be cake somewhere in there.
Oh God, that video you linked, which was a lot of stuff that was completely unrelated, but did you see the thing where Donut Operator showed up in like the too tight pants that were like stuffed for twerking?
Yes. I don't really understand why that was happening, but it sure was.
I don't have a good explanation either. Just if you don't know what we're talking about, there's like one video linked. Watch it. Skip to the range part. You'll see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll be talking about why that's there in a little bit. But yes, I am so excited that you tapped me. Like I didn't even think it was an option, and then you surprised me, and you surprised me also at the end of just like a very, very long day, and I'm just like, I'm just so tired and burnt out and not waking up. And wait, what plans and all this? And this is also going to be like the first time I've traveled solo since my daughter's like into public schools, and so it's one of those like, oh, this adds a logistic level to it. But actually,
since the before times.
Yes, because she was in kindergarten when the lockdowns happened, and so everything up before then she was in daycare. So it really didn't matter. There was just she could be in daycare, she can not be in daycare, whatever, and just send her up to Maine for the week. And it actually turned out that it's during Massachusetts February vacation, and so I was sending her up to Maine for the week anyway.
Well, I'm glad that worked out.
Yeah, worked out very well.
And in somewhat related news, before we get to the main topic, so yeah, that's going to be in about 2 weeks. But in a few days, I'm flying to Utah. And I'm flying to Utah on someone else's dime. So I was approached by, I think the group is called Jeff Hayes Films. And they do documentaries. And they're doing a documentary about guns. And they want to talk to me because of my work with Pink Pistols and Blazing Sword. And, they want me enough that they're willing to pay for my travel arrangements to go out to Utah so that I can be recorded in their studio. And, this is kind of a big deal because one of the things in there is like, will you be wanting makeup and hair services? And I'm like, heck yes, this is my first time on camera. I want to look good. I've got this sneaking fear in the back of my head, and it's like 99% my imposter syndrome. It's like, I'm worried that this is going to be like some elaborate Sacha Baron Cohen ruse, and, they're going to get me out there and punk me. Because, the imposter syndrome is going, they couldn't possibly want to talk to you for anything legitimate. They're just doing this to make fun of you. But I've done my due diligence. I've had friends who've done due diligence, and it's like everything seems to be straightforward. So unless they're going to get me with some sort of gotcha, and I don't think they are, that'll be a really interesting experience. So depending on how things go, February could be a really good month for Erin Paulette.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so awesome. Oh, this is why you're an important voice of the Second Amendment. And another one I just wanted to mention was, we talked about it last week. I said, do you want to talk about it more? Just because I've just been getting more and more excited about it. Is the amicus brief that you and the DC Project. Can you name all the other groups that are with this?
Yeah,
so I don't leave
it was our historically discriminated coalition, although Knight Institute didn't use that name. But it's us, DC Project, Asian, oh good God, Asian American Pacific Islander gun owner. I may have gotten some of the initials wrong, but the Asian Gun Group, National African American Gun Owners Association. Did I mention the DC Project? I think I did. And joining us on this is the Liberal Gun Club. And of course, Knight Institute, First Amendment, something or other out of Columbia University, who are, and they say so in their own, I guess, preface to the amicus. It's like, we kind of are okay with gun control laws, but, the other groups we're representing aren't. But we all agree that the First Amendment violation of requiring concealed carry applicants to give up 3 years of their social media, that's just garbage. And so it's like, well, okay. Besides, the Knight Institute is the one who approached me in all this, and they didn't charge me anything. And so, okay, that's great. So it's going to be interesting when a judge sees this, because, as I said before, a good chunk of the battle is getting a judge to go, wait, really? When it comes to gun control challenges, you expect to see the NRA. You expect to see Firearms Coalition. It's like, oh my, there's a whole bunch of minorities that are opposing this. That's always interesting. And then they're going to go, wait, they're challenging this on First Amendment grounds? You have my attention. So yeah, I've babbled on for far too long, and I know that you're going to want to segue into something that we didn't mention last week, and that is this particular and very unusual challenge has gotten noticed by a friend of the show.
Yes, yeah, there was an episode devoted in Cam & Company to this amicus curiae, and
it's not the entire episode, but the first 15 minutes of the show talked about it.
I mean,
so that's really cool.
It's very much like we do our little banter and we do a little main topic dance, but then we've got our segments. The segments are the main part of the show. For Cam & Company, he has the main issue, and then he does the recidivist report, the defensive gun use, and
fair enough.
And the good deed of the day. So it's I would argue that, I mean, it was like 80% of the podcast was
fair enough.
To this.
I mean, I'm just happy to have top billing. That's great.
Yeah, and it was a really, really good coverage, and just Cam was just pointing out just all of the awful pitfalls that are going through, such as, hey, on your Facebook group, if you are a defund the police type person, and now the police are reviewing your social media to see if you are quote unquote suitable. And then, Cam went there too. He was pointing out the fact that, well, does this also count if you have like a, Grindr or what are some of the other ones? Bumble.
Well, I think he said Tinder first, and then Tinder. He said Grindr.
Yeah, but if you have a hookup app on your phone, does that count? And some friends of my house came over, and we were talking about Grindr, and my wife's like, "What is that?" And this is a lovely gay married couple, and they went, "Oh, yeah, we've got Grindr accounts," and they fired it up. And it was hilarious. Like, they fired it up, and within 6 seconds of going, they were already getting messages from people in my area. And the some of the profile pictures are from most people do the headshot, and this could also be described as a headshot. And so, like, that was exactly my thought, was just all of the genitalia that I immediately saw on my friend's phone, with him going, "Oh, look at this! Look what's going on!" I'm just like, "Wow, that's a lot of junk right there." And will the police be expecting it? Is absolutely a social media. Will the police be expecting that? So.
Yeah, junk in the trunk takes on an entirely different meaning when it comes to Grindr, doesn't it?
It sure does. It sure does. But yeah, there's all sorts of stuff on there that's really none of their damn business. And so yeah, this is absolutely something that is a great attack, because again, I've often described the quote unquote anti-gun forces as anti-freedom, because there's very few things that they will be willing to go for. Once you start getting safe storage laws, you will start hearing anti-gun activists saying, well, we need to go in and inspect these people's houses to make sure that the guns are stored safe, and that they're all there and they're not, selling them or lending them out to people. who shouldn't have them, and sidestepping the background check laws. Like it just keeps going, and they don't care. And honestly speaking, I think the big reason why they don't want you to have guns is so you can say no, because having a gun is the ultimate no. I'm not going to do that. But either way, I was proud of you, and that Cam and Company episode, which is linked to the show notes, really got me amped up. It was really fun to hear Cam's take on that, and hear some more about it. And it was very impressive. I'm super proud, and that's the reason why we're going to the Gundies, is because you're awesome, Erin.
Well, thank you.
But the main topic that I really wanted to talk about is, this is something it's been ongoing, and it's just, there's more stuff coming out on it now, and it's really kind of officially come to a lull, I guess you could say. But YouTube was nuking Second Amendment channels, gun channels, GUNTUBERS as they call them, and it was getting really obnoxious. Like several places got channel strikes. How YouTube works is they've got a strike system, and 3 strikes and you're out. If you end up accruing 3 strikes, then your channel is deleted. It's just gone, and you're not allowed to start a new channel or anything like that. Well, whether or not that happens or not is debatable, but that's the rules. And which is super scary, since many of these larger YouTube channels have quit their day job and devoted, essentially full time to producing these videos, because you can actually, if you've got a large enough channel, you can make a decent living at it. But there was stuff like people have got channel strikes for threading a silencer onto the barrel of a gun, channel strikes for inserting a large capacity magazine, what YouTube sees as a large capacity, like literally AR-15 30-round magazine, just a magazine into a gun, was considered, I guess, assembly and modification of a firearm. There's a bunch of articles on that, and also I highly recommend going to the if you're not listening to the Reload podcast, Steve has Ian on the show to talk about his involvement with this, and pointing out the fact that one of the scariest things was that at no point did anybody actually tell them what was going on why people were getting these strikes and why people were getting videos removed and deleted, and just. They figure the screwing suppressors on and inserting magazines, and I guess Ian heard about somebody who was putting sights on a gun, got a strike, and the closest they figured that out just by comparing notes and seeing what did the videos that were taken down have in common with one another. But either way, there was a bunch of the biggest GunTube channels, YouTube channels that are firearms features, kind of got together and really started talking with YouTube and really getting out the word on what was happening. And it appears that YouTube has reversed their decision, though again,
according to the article, it seemed like nothing happened until someone from the Reload reached out to a YouTube media contact. Mm-hmm. In other words, they bypassed the regular channels and talked to a person behind the scenes. I'll have my guy talk to your guy. And honestly, that's what happened with us sometime, I don't remember if it was 2020 or 21, but Facebook decided that Blue Collar Prepping was a spam site, and I couldn't post any links to it. And I appealed, and nothing happened. And it was only because I knew someone who worked at Facebook that I was able to get this addressed and got it removed. And so, Yeah, that's just the way some of these things work. And sometimes I think it's on purpose. You know, they want to make it difficult, and they want to have it be, no real appeal. You know, we have made our ruling and you will live with it. And so I really think the only reason it got fixed is because someone knew somebody, and there was perhaps that threat of, the reload is going to mention how YouTube is playing games, and maybe someone got caught doing something they shouldn't have, and it was like, no, everything's fine. So we'll reinstate the videos, we'll remove the strikes, everything's fine here, ha ha ha.
And I, in your statement about it being intentional, there's no doubt in my mind that this is intentional, because this is like cross reality for Second Amendment people. Because again, we have the ATF and their pistol brace ruling. The pistol braces that they said was perfectly legal, and then said, oh, it's illegal if you put it against your shoulder. Oh, never mind, you can put it against your shoulder. Now it's just completely illegal. And the, the machine gun needs to be something that fires multiple bullets with one action of the trigger, and bump stocks specifically make it so that you are pulling the trigger that fast every time a gun shooting a bump stock, no matter how it sounds, your finger is hitting it, all that. It's just helping you hit that trigger faster. But yet there's something now, now it's a machine gun. Why? Not telling. We have here, Mara Healey's little anti-gun edict, where she specifically has said, I am not going to tell you why, how we decide whether a gun is an assault weapon or not. Just send it in and we will give you a yay or nay on each gun individually. And specifically said the reason why we're doing that is if we tell them how we determine if a gun is an assault weapon or not, people will comply with the law, and we don't want
How
them
dare
to.
they?
Yeah, we just want them to stop. We want them to go away. And that's some suspicion on the YouTube thing is, well, why tell me what I'm doing that's making you mad, and I'll try to find a way so that I'm not doing the thing that you don't like.
You exist.
And that's exactly it. It's no, we don't want you to make videos that are more agreeable to us. We just want you to go away. And that's just disgusting and juvenile. It's very much everyone probably had that thing where you're playing a game with somebody in elementary school, in the elementary school schoolyard, and they just keep changing the rules in the middle of the game. And no, it doesn't work that way. I've got this power. I could do it this way. And it aggravates me, especially given how much regulation and how severe the regulation are with guns. And you really have to be extremely knowledgeable on the rules with guns. And yet we get these, we're going to just kind of be wishy-washy about it and not really follow the letter of the law and not really do these sort of things. And it's just, and it's not, I was just thinking about cars. Cars are another one where you got to really know the law, because, you make an illegal left-hand turn, and guess what? If a police officer sees you do that, you can get pulled over and you're going to get charged. But also at the same time, every time I'm on the highway, I blow past a cop doing 5 miles over the speed limit, and I never get pulled over, because you don't get pulled over doing 5 miles over the speed limit. It's not worth their time. But that doesn't happen with guns. Now it's no. We're going to declare your pistol brace a short-barreled rifle. Yeah, it's aggravating.
Feel better?
You know what, Erin? I will feel better after I've seen my boot broken off in the butt of the Brady campaign.
Kinky.
Yeah, I've got another Fisk. It's my latest installment of Fisking the Brady Campaign podcast, and this time they're dealing with more social issues. Time for another Fisk from the Brady podcast, where they attempt to tear down pro-gun talking points poorly. This one focuses on social issues.
Position number 10. It's not about guns. It's about law enforcement being soft on crime. We should be tougher on crime and crack down on would-be attackers.
Well, it isn't about guns. As I've noted in past Fisks, Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont are considered the safest states to live in when considering violent crime. But New Jersey is number 4, Rhode Island is number 6, and Massachusetts is number 9. And Tennessee, South Carolina, Arkansas, Louisiana, and New Mexico are the most dangerous 5. So while the most gun-friendly states are some of the safest, some of the more unfriendly states are near the top. And the very bottom are some very gun-friendly states. Further, California is the 37th safest state, and Texas is 40th. So those two polar opposites are right next to each other. So looking at gun laws and gun ownership is not a predictor of violent crime. Ergo, it isn't about the guns.
Hi, my name is Erica, and I'm a program manager for our Combating Crime Guns initiative at Brady.
We've talked about the Crime Guns Initiative. It has nothing to do with crime and everything to do with shutting down gun shops for paperwork violations or because patrons had the misfortune of getting their guns stolen by criminals.
And I answered this question by reminding folks that police do crisis response and not prevention. Police departments are well established and well funded. So if policing was the sole answer to this problem, we'd have solved it.
This is true. Police rarely stop crimes. They intervene only after a crime has been committed. Hence why I carry a gun, because when something bad happens, you have to call and wait for the cops to show up before they even get there. I don't think that's what she meant.
Ultimately, the people who live next door to you, who teach your children, who work in your grocery stores, and who attend your church are best positioned to prevent gun violence in your community.
Correct. You are your own first responder. Also, if one of your neighbors is up to no good and endangering the community, you could be a good witness for the police, and that can help them correct that issue. And snitches don't get stitches if the snitch is armed.
We should be looking to our neighbors for community-centered, community-specific solutions to gun violence. And most importantly, we should be funding those solutions the way we fund law enforcement.
She's being overly vague here because there are millions of different community outreach groups. Some, like scholarships, job training, school improvement, and Big Brother, Big Sister programs, do wonders for improving communities. Others, like gang violence interrupters and midnight basketball, have been massive wastes of money and even potential magnets for violent crime. So if they're proven to reduce crime, I'm all for them. If they're just feel-good boondoggles that at best do nothing, then they're exactly like gun control, and my opinion of them is identical to that. Next!
Position number 11. This is just a social issue. It's something like bad parenting, and you can't legislate against evil.
Well, you can't legislate against evil, and you can't legislate away violence and lawlessness. Because, as I mentioned above, police don't stop crime. They intervene in crime. And of course, criminals don't follow laws by nature. So laws only affect them after they're caught breaking them.
Hi, I'm Erin Davis. I am the Senior Counsel for Trial and Appellate Litigation here at Brady, and I spend my days representing victims of gun violence against the gun industry.
Erin hasn't been with Brady that long, and it appears that most of the cases that Brady has filed against gun makers have happened before she was part of the team. That being said, Brady has an amazing track record of frivolous lawsuits that are either dismissed or settled out of court. And I'm sure Erin looks forward to having her name attached to similar lawfare garbage.
I answer that question by saying the gun industry has successfully been legislating evil themselves. They have proactively passed special protections that limit gun violence victims' access to justice and ensure that these victims are not subject to the same oversight of consumer products that every other industry in America has.
Said by a woman speaking for a group that brought the Phillips family, who lost their daughter in the Aurora movie theater shooting, to a lawfare case against Lucky Gunner. The case was so horrible, a judge dismissed it with prejudice in a pre-trial hearing and demanded the complainant pay the legal fees of the defendant, which was over $200,000. Rather than using their big corporate money, Brady just let the Phillips family declare bankruptcy. Because frivolous lawsuits and using people as pawns is totally the thing that good guys do. So what laws is she whining about? I'll let her explain.
For example, the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Acts makes it much harder for a victim of gun violence to successfully bring a lawsuit.
Yep, that's the one the judge signed when he told Brady to pay the legal fees. And they ran from it, leaving the Phillips family holding the bag. The anti-gun lobby likes to paint this as a special protection. But in fact, it's how all laws work. The best example is if somebody drinks a case of Bud Light beers and gets in his Ford F-150 and goes driving to the convenience store for more beer and hits a family in a Honda Accord, killing them all. There isn't a lawsuit against Budweiser or Ford or even Honda. It's against the jerk who decided to go driving drunk. Further, this law doesn't protect gun companies from selling guns that are unsafe to use or prone to accidents. Only against lawsuits filed against them for guns used expressly for illegal acts. This is why the Brady campaign has never actually won a case in court against a gun company, and also why they hate this law. Because even when Lucky Gunner cleaned Brady's clock, Brady was only out the court filings and whatever illegal money laundering they did to keep the Phillips family loyal to them despite needing to file bankruptcy. But Lucky Gunner had to pay almost $250,000 for a case that never went to trial. This makes dollars and cents for anti-gun lawfare, and why the law was passed in the first place.
And the Tiahrt Amendment handcuffs ATF from being able to present vital data that would protect the safety of our community publicly.
This is a lie. The Tiahrt Amendment makes it illegal for the ATF to release firearms records or data to anybody but law enforcement and the court systems. So cops, lawyers, and judges can get this information, just not private corporations with a goal of disarming the American people and harassing lawful gun owners. Of course, the woman working for the lawfare department of the Brady would hate this amendment. It got rid of the tools they used to label gun dealers bad apples, despite these dealers doing nothing wrong. Further, we have examples of states that are not bound by this law abusing their power, such as when 2 New York counties published every gun permit holder's name and address in a searchable database with an interactive map. Or very recently, Massachusetts had a simply coded database of the Massachusetts Gun Registry. The Tiahrt Amendment is good law because the anti-gunners are such unstable jerks. They'll do crap like this unless you make it illegal. Of course, the overarching theme is they talk about community intervention and community activism. But in the end, the Brady campaign is all about gun bans. So this is all just virtue signaling. Those are your anti-gun talking points and a few rebuttals to combat them.
Weer'd, isn't hunting over bait illegal?
I don't see any game wardens. Erin Paulette, you know that I'm from Maine, and I have a lot of family in northern Maine. And let's just say a lot of family in northern Maine. If you've got a bunch of land and maybe a large garage or a barn, yeah, there's a deer could just go missing. But what did you find particularly hunting over bait?
Just the whole thing, really. I didn't expect a kind of Spanish Inquisition. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. I mean, I gave you the opportunity to do it and didn't take it.
Well, I didn't do it as well as you. I would have butchered it. No, gotta love specifically the lady from the Brady campaign's lawfare department going, I'm so mad about the Tiahrt Amendment and the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act because it doesn't let us be awful. Like, they're 2 laws specifically designed because groups, specifically the Brady campaign and among others, were doing horrible, harassing, abusive things to lawful gun owners. And so he said, no, stop it.
I mean, at this point, I think anytime the Brady campaign says anything, you can just say Phillips family. And, I mean, it won't stop them, because that would require them to have some sense of conscience. But most people listening will just go, ooh, and you'll win the conversation with the people that it matters.
Yeah. And it also it also loses a little bit of the sting because Sandy Phillips specifically, I haven't seen her husband. I can't even remember what his name is because he doesn't make the big appearances as much as Sandy, the mother, does, is still extremely loyal to the Brady campaign and to Michael Bloomberg and appears at all. I mean, like, yeah, the last time I saw her, she went down to Uvalde, Texas to speak out for gun control after the shooting at the elementary school there. And so she is still very much loyal to the Brady campaign and still works tightly with all the different anti-gun groups. Like I've said, they're all kind of intertwined these days. And so you'll see her on Gifford's things, on Brady campaign things, and on Everytown, the Everytown umbrella. And so, yeah, the fact that she is still loyal to them after she was forced to declare bankruptcy because she was led down a direct, I mean, anyone could have seen that coming. I mean, that was the first thing Lucky Gunner did was, this is a violation of Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act. Motion dismiss. Motion granted. And so, yeah, it was successful for the Brady campaign because, again, they spent almost $250,000 on a case that barely happened. And the Brady campaign spent almost nothing. And the Phillips family lost a lot in the process, though there is some talk about shenanigans that I won't get into. You can do your own research. As far as they still seem to be living very, very comfortably despite having all their assets, quote unquote, seized.
Let's just have a rough transition, like accidentally shifting into reverse on the highway. So, Weer'd, what do you call a 5.7 pistol that isn't made by Fabrique Nationale?
Herder, Erin, I don't know.
Why, it's the subject of David's next segment.
Hi, and welcome to Gun Lovers and Other Strangers. In this segment, I'd like to talk about Smith & Wesson's new pistol chambered in the FN 5.7 cartridge. Diverging from more traditional Smith & Wesson naming conventions, it's simply called the 5.7 series pistol. The 5.7 by 28mm cartridge has been of particular interest to the shooting world since it first appeared on the scene in 1990, in response to a NATO request for a cartridge to replace the 9mm Parabellum that was standard issue at the time. In effect, the 5.7 is a spicier centerfire version of the .22 Winchester Magnum rimfire cartridge. Where the WMR generates 324 foot-pounds of energy from a 40-grain bullet at 1,875 feet per second, the 5.7 drives a similar weight bullet at 2,351 feet per second for 490 foot-pounds of energy, compared to the NATO 9mm load of a 124-grain bullet at around 1,350 feet per second for nearly 500 foot-pounds of energy. While the 5.7 is a very interesting cartridge and is chambered in the unusual FNP-90 carbine as well as various other rifle and pistol platforms over the years, the concept failed in its bid to replace the 9mm as the NATO standard handgun cartridge. This doesn't mean the 5.7 faded into obscurity as so many cartridges that went before have. In fact, every year or so, another manufacturer introduces a 5.7 chambered firearm. This year, it was Smith & Wesson's turn, and they came out with something different and technically unusual and extremely interesting. According to the listing on the Smith & Wesson website, the new M&P 5.7 will light up the range and quicken your pulse. With a staggering 22+1 capacity, the M&P 5.7 introduces a new and innovative technology, the Tempo Barrel System. Using the ballistics of the 5.7 by 28mm round, the rotating 5-inch Tempo barrel gives you the repeatability you need to take control and feel the fast. The website goes on to list the following features. Internal hammer-fired gas-operated locked breech Tempo barrel system. Barrel doesn't cam open until bullet passes gas port. Slim, optimally textured grip. Ambidextrous slide stop and manual thumb safety. Reversible magazine release. Slide cut for optics. Flat face trigger for consistent finger placement allows for more accurate and repeatable shooting. Picatinny style rail. Forward slide serrations. Crisp single action trigger brake. Accurate 1 9-inch twist barrel. Comes with two 22-round magazines. The tempo barrel system utilizes an internally rotating barrel and a fixed external barrel shroud with a threaded end for easily attaching muzzle devices. We recently got one in at the store where I work, so I took the opportunity to take a closer look. As with all 5.7 handguns which have the magazine in the grip, it's a little on the bulky side and may not be comfortable for shooters with smaller hands. That being said, for its cartridge and capacity, it's more comfortable than some of the earlier pistols chambered in 5.7. As with most of Smith & Wesson's current handgun selections, it's available with or without a thumb safety. The model I examined didn't have one. From the outside, it looks like a fairly standard polymer frame pistol, albeit with a larger grip. Once I field stripped it, that all changed. Disassembly is simple. The slide is retracted just enough for the left side slide stop to line up with the disassembly notch. The slide stop is pushed out from the right side, where there's a slot that allows the lever to be started with a fingernail or cartridge rim. Once the slide stop has been removed, the slide can be pulled off the front of the frame. Being a hammer-fired gun, there is no need to pull the trigger as part of disassembly. Once the slide is off, the recoil spring is removed, which gives access to the barrel. This is where things get particularly interesting. The barrel is in two parts, an outer shroud and an inner barrel. At the rear of each component, there is an interlocking camming lug similar to that on an AK-47 bolt. Except in this case, it's between the shroud, which is fixed in place when the pistol is assembled, and the barrel, which rotates to unlock. As mentioned earlier, the Smith & Wesson 5.7 is a gas-operated pistol. The barrel also acts as the gas piston during firing. There's a gas port about an inch back from the muzzle, behind which are a series of gas rings similar to an AR bolt. This means the bullet is nearly out of the barrel before the gas system starts to generate any pressure at all. Once the bullet passes the port, a small amount of gas is diverted and fills the expansion chamber, driving the barrel lug against the cam slot in the shroud. This causes the barrel to rotate and unlock from the shroud. The gun then follows the usual ballet of movement in a semi-automatic pistol cycle. The tempo barrel system looks like a very elegant solution, and I'm interested in trying a Smith & Wesson 5.7 out on the range. From reports, it's a very soft-shooting pistol. This also means that for the first time, I'm actually seriously interested in getting a firearm in what is a fairly boutique cartridge.
This is a P90. It's compact, lightweight, incredibly sturdy. Good. That's good. This is a 9mm semi-automatic.
That's good too.
I prefer this.
I can see why you would.
That about wraps up this segment. If you have any questions for me or suggestions for future segments or a comment on a past segment, please post them on the Assorted Calibers Podcast Facebook or MeWe pages, and Erin or Weer'd will make sure I see them. I'm also a contributor on the Blue Collar Prepping blog, which can be found at bluecollarprepping.blogspot.com. We're always looking for people interested in submitting posts to the blog, so please check out the site. Finally, I'm a published author, and books with my stories can be found on Amazon under the name Brenna Bock. That's BrenaBock. I'm also in anthologies published under my actual name. Look for David Bock on Amazon as well. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. I'm David, and this is Gun Lovers and Other Strangers.
Oh, this gun, I get in a lather over this gun. Like it might even be worth me buying it in Massachusetts and only having a 10-round magazine for it until we smarten up here. Because like I look at so many different guns when doing handgun radio that it's one of those, like, so many of them are, I mean, some of them are pretty much just basically Glocks. And, you know, maybe it's a slightly nicer Glock or a slightly cheaper Glock or whatever. That's most of the handguns out there, you know. And then you have a gun like the Rock Island Arsenal just came out with like a target pistol called the 5.0, and it's yeah, it's really fancy. It's really cool. But in the end, a lot of the technology that it's using to make that gun work is stuff that you've seen elsewhere. They're just really, really novel about how they're using that technology. And this thing, I have never seen anything like it. Like, I heard it was gas operated, and I immediately thought about the H&K P7. Like, okay, it's got a piston under there. And then I started looking, and then David got it in the shop and he sent me a picture of it taken apart, and I'm like, oh, it doesn't have a piston in it. Okay, so that must be like the Steyr GB, because that one had the gas ports in the barrel and the little sleeve. But wait, the sleeve is fixed. It doesn't work like that. And then David pointed out that it's the barrel rotates. And then on top of that, you actually thread, like if you're threading a suppressor onto it, you thread it onto the barrel shroud, not the barrel itself. Like, it's madness. It's madness. And it's so interesting. And Erin Paulette doesn't care. She's like, does it shoot? Does it work?
I'm not as into pistols as my co-host, who also co-hosts Handgun Radio. It's like, all right, that's interesting. I don't hate it on first sight the way that I hated the Remington 57 or something.
Oh, did you hate that at first sight?
If it's the one that I'm thinking of, because we all know how good I am with names, but everyone was just going, oh my god, it's the first all-steel pistol in years. And it's just like, that's ugly.
Oh, the R51.
The R51, there we go.
Yep.
And it was just, it's like, well, okay, I hated Matt Smith on sight for an entirely different reason. He was goofy looking when he inherited Doctor Who. The main reason I hated him was because he wasn't David Tennant. But it was just that same visceral, why does everyone like this? That looks awful. I don't understand. This, I don't have that feeling. It's like, okay, it's a gun. It's kind of pricey. It's in a boutique round. I don't know that I would ever get it. I would sure like to shoot it using someone else's ammo, but
essentially, you could describe this as a very, very Gucci version of your mom's PMR 30. Is it?
Yeah.
Because the round is very, very, very similar to 22 Winchester Magnum, and the magazine capacities are very, very, very similar, and the guns are very similar form factor. Just this one's got way funkier of an action to it,
and apparently can't hold 30 rounds in a pistol.
That's probably true. It's only 20, right? Yeah, the 5.7's got a fat tushy. It's a bottleneck. Doesn't have quite the badonka-donk of 357 SIG, but yeah, it's got a little junk in the trunk. A theme. Oh God, is that the title?
Probably not, but maybe I can do a variation on it.
Please don't let this be the title. Well.
It's too bad that this is made by M&P and not H&K, but I think H&K Badonkadonk would actually work. It doesn't exactly rhyme, but it's close. But M&P Badonk, that doesn't work.
S&W Badonk also doesn't work.
Yeah.
Tiny, it's Tiny to the rescue. Last week he teased it. He and now he delivers his promise to tell the story of how he was swatted.
Not once, but twice.
Hello all, in ACP land, it's me Tiny with another installment of Deep Thoughts from the land of rocks and cows. I teased at the end of my last segment about telling you all about the time I was swatted twice. So to begin, you need to know a few things about me. I live in a sparsely populated remote rural county in central Minnesota. So few people live in this area that one of the neighboring counties has a fun statistic that turkeys raised for Genio outnumber people 144 to 1. We have one stoplight in the entire county. So a very insular community where until the late 60s the one-room schoolhouse was still in use and many kids had to learn English when they started busing them to local high schools and elementary schools. In fact, when we brought some of my cousins from Minneapolis to the homecoming dance in the late 90s, They were the first people of color that some of my classmates had ever talked to, which is a whole different story. So to get to the meat and potatoes of the story, a few years ago, when my parents moved to California for a business trip, I got a call from a number from California. Little did I know that answering this call would send me down a proverbial creek sans propulsion device. It was a Friday, and having had a few cocktails at the local watering hole when my phone lit up, and I answered it thinking maybe something had happened to my family. On the other end of the line was someone asking me if I was the owner of the Twitter account @Tiny. I tipsily replied yes, but why were you calling me? They informed me that I would be giving them my email account associated with the Twitter account, or else and I hung up thinking nothing of it. Fast forward a few weeks and I start getting texts from random phone numbers in California that were somewhat threatening towards myself, my wife, and my child. I disregarded them because I'm single and childless as far as I know. But my dad encouraged me to at least talk to someone in the sheriff's department just in case, so I did. They told me that it would probably amount to nothing. Oh, how I wish that were so. A few more weeks go by and it's Friday, March 16th. And I again am at my local bar discussing what our fleet of junker cars that have been converted to parade floats we would be bringing to the St. Patrick's Day parade in the next town over. I look down and my phone is lit up and the caller ID says Sheriff's Dispatch for our county. So I step outside to answer. When I pick up, I was asked if I was okay and if I was free to talk. I was a bit perplexed and said yes. I just stepped outside because it's a bit noisy in the bar. The dispatcher takes a beat to reply and says, "So you're not being held in your basement by 3 black men with AR-15s. No, ma'am, I'm not. I'm in small town, outside the bar, talking about the St. Patrick's Day parade tomorrow." "Okay, well, we just had a call from this number stating that, and we are sending some cars out just to do a wellness check. Is there anyone at that address?" "Yes, my parents are probably sound asleep in bed. I just moved back to the farm to help my parents take care of the upkeep. And the officers probably want to announce themselves because we have been having issues with coyotes coming into the yard, and my dad has a shotgun and a .223 inside the front door." "Good to know. Where are you?" "I'm in small town, standing outside the bar because there's no cell phone signal inside." "Okay, we'll send some units to your location as well." I step back into the bar to get my coat, because it is a chilly night, and inform the other 3 people and bartender what's happening. They just all look at me dumbfounded. "Someone seriously just swatted you?" "Appears so," I reply. "One person's left, but the others stayed to see the show." As I go back out the door, I see and hear 5 cruisers. 2 cops from the next 2 towns over, a sheriff's deputy, a highway patrol, and a state trooper pull up into our sleepy town of 75, full code with lights and sirens blazing. I was questioned, explained what I thought was going on, and it just so happens that the deputy I had spoken to about the text was the one to come into town. I say come into town because they also sent 4 units to my parents' home and searched the property. They tell me to keep in contact and let them know if I'm contacted again. Things die down and I'm the talk of the county for a few weeks. Everywhere I go, people walk up to me and ask if I was really swatted and what it was like. Then on Easter, I'm out of town visiting family, just sitting down to watch a movie in the theater when my phone lights up. I look down at the caller ID, and once again, it's our county's sheriff dispatch. I answer, and they ask me, "Are you home right now?" "Nope, I'm 200 miles away, visiting family for the holidays. Can I help?" "That's fine, dearie. You just enjoy your movie. There's nothing you can help with." I think that's weird. Tell my family what's up, and they just start to fret. When the movie ends, I look at my phone, and our neighbor has left a voicemail. "Tiny, your swatter's at it again. They called the county to the east of us this time and said that they were you, and you were shooting up cars that were driving past your mailbox on the highway. There's 7 patrol cars, an armored vehicle, and a 2 ambulances in my yard, wondering if I had seen anything. Just thought I'd let you know. After visiting with the sheriff's deputies again, when I got home and not having any response to emails that I had sent to Twitter, I decided to delete the Twitter account. And that about sums it up. If you have any questions about my harrowing tale, post them in the ACP groups and I'm sure Weer'd and Erin will be happy to forward them along. And always remember, when you tell somebody something, it depends on what part of the United States you're standing in as to just how dumb you are.
Yeah, that was a wow. I mean, even though we knew he was being swatted, I didn't expect that. Okay, first of all, I'm so glad that nobody got hurt. That's fantastic. I was worried about that, although I figured if he was willing to talk about it, that it wasn't going to be something awful. The first thing I did after I finished listening to it was I got on Facebook and I messaged Tiny and I said something like, dude, what did you say on your Twitter? Because I figured he said something that severely irritated someone, and it's like, I'm going to get this guy's Twitter account because he's made me mad. And that wasn't the case. I don't exactly know why things changed, but Twitter no longer allows 4-letter Twitter accounts. And so those who got in under the wire, those are rare and restricted, like, machine guns that you can buy, pre-86 Hughes Amendment. And so the guy wanted it so that he could then sell it for a bunch of money. And in a lot of ways, that makes this even worse because he put Tiny and Tiny's family in mortal danger in order to make a buck. And that's just vile. And nothing came of it. They were able to some degree track this down because it was connected to a Google account, and all Tiny said was it was some kid in North Carolina, probably an adolescent. I didn't press for details, but for whatever reason, nothing could be done, and I didn't expect anything could be done. Swatting is one of those things that makes me wish I could kill with a thought. Mm-hmm. And it's just because not only are you lying to the police, you are trying to orchestrate the harm, potentially the murder of not just your victim, but everyone in that household. Oh, I want to swat people who swat people. I get so upset.
Yeah, thankfully, it appears that, it's a very, very high-tech crime, and of course, we have a very low-tech system, and it takes time to catch up with such things, but it appears that a lot of jurisdictions have enacted swatting laws and have at least started giving it some of the reverence that it deserves, and I would say started to understand some of, the telltales of what is a legitimate call and what is a potential SWAT call. But then again, also you see about Tim Pool seems to get raided every other weekend. But I suspect that there's ulterior motives on that.
Oh yeah, he's made a lot of people angry.
Yeah, and the police have got to be at least a little bit in on it, because if there's another call about some sort of armed interdiction in the Tim Pool studios while he's recording live, well, maybe go on the live stream and see what it looks like. Mm-hmm. Is Tim Pool afraid for his life? Is there blood on the walls, or is he just interviewing somebody? Maybe he's okay. Maybe send an officer by real quick and talk to somebody there and just say, "Is everything okay? Cool. We'll move on." Or call a designated cell phone number and just have one of Tim's friends is just hanging out watching the show, and if the phone rings, it's his job to answer it, and if it's the police, to say, "No, we're fine." But yeah, I ended up posting a bunch of links for Tiny. He didn't give me any, but I'm like, oh no, there's some stuff in here, especially since I heard about the swatting, and so I did a little bit of research on how it gets done, and My research didn't go very far because I don't understand how any of this works, but it's in the show notes. And you have a look at what like orange box hacking and there's a bunch of stuff about using voice over IP systems to spoof a caller ID to whatever number you want. But there's specifically, this reminded me as soon as he was saying, he had his Twitter account was tiny. I went, oh, that is a very, very short, very simple handle. And it reminded me of a Darknet Diary, specifically episode 97. It's called The Pizza Problem. And it was about somebody, I didn't re-listen to the whole podcast. It's been a while since I heard it. But this person had, I forget if it was like an Instagram account or something, but this person had, it was an early adopter of one of the social medias and had a really desirable account name. And so people were trying to take it by either trying to hack him and steal it, or in this case, this person was like delivering like dozens of pizzas to his house through, by submitting the orders online and just harassing him. And so, yeah, it's a real thing. Like, if you've got an account that has a name that somebody else might want or like or might be useful, then yeah, it's worth money. And if it's worth money, it's worth doing harm over, unfortunately.
I don't have anything else constructive to add other than just a generalized rage at the injustice in the world.
That is awful. So let's talk about something wonderful. You know what's wonderful, Erin?
Well, I wouldn't say what, I would say who. And
Yes.
that who is our patrons.
Yes, our lovely patrons, and really all of our listeners. And I would like to thank each and every one of our listeners, but of course, the special thank, the little kiss on the cheek, goes to our supporters on Patreon. To become our Patreon patron, go to patreon.com/Assorted Calibers podcast to sign up. You can get an early release of the podcast, but there's also bonus content like the blooper reels. Oh my God, they're getting long. I just published a really, really long one. So yeah, there's a lot of content for you to listen to. The ACP film tracks, it's not going to be out yet. It's coming out. It's the first Tuesday in March. Red Dawn, just a classic. Oh, I was so excited about that. And the ACP Magdom.
Also, please remember to rate us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to us on the platform of your choice, and share the show with your friends, both online and off.
I got a blog. It's weirdworld.com, and you can hear me also on Handgun Radio, where we talk about handguns and get really geeky like I was trying to do in boring Erin.
Hey, Weer'd, where can we find your blog?
Oh, that's weerdworld.com. But, Erin, where can we find you?
Me, little old me. Well, you can find me in Utah and then in Texas. But if you're not in any one of those places, you can get more from me at linktree/Erin Paulette. That's linkter.ee/Erin Paulette, all one word.
And thanks to Nate Spencer for our music.
He's a Muppet, and I have got my hand up his butt. I don't know what we are, but we're Assorted, and so's our podcast. Good night, everybody.
Good night.